The gavel hadn't even struck when the tension in the courtroom reached a breaking point. What began as a routine hearing turned into a standoff when two officers moved to confront a black woman sitting quietly in the gallery. They expected an easy removal. They didn't realize she was the one truly in charge. The courtroom was a place of heavy oak, polished brass, and a silence so thick it felt like a physical weight, a space where the air was sterile and the clock on the wall ticked with a rhythmic, uncaring precision, and Maya sat in the third row of the gallery, her back straight and her hands folded neatly in her lap, her attire professional but unassuming. And she was there merely to observe a case that had significant implications for her firm's civil rights division, yet her presence seemed to agitate the bailiff and a junior officer standing near the side exit, two men who had been whispering and casting suspicious glances her way since she entered, and as the judge was delayed in chambers, the junior officer, a man named Miller with a buzz cut and a restless energy, stepped toward her, his hand resting unnecessarily on his belt, and he leaned down to tell Maya that the gallery was reserved for family of the defendants today, and that she needed to exit the room immediately, his tone carrying a sharp, practiced edge that suggested he didn't expect to be questioned, yet Maya didn't move, her gaze remaining fixed on the empty judge's bench as she calmly replied that she was well within her rights as a member of the public to witness an open hearing, a response that caused Miller's face to redden, his posture shifting from authoritative to aggressive as he signaled the bailiff to join him. And the two officers now stood over her, creating a wall of blue fabric and cold metal that drew the attention of everyone in the room, the defense attorneys, the court reporter, and the few other spectators, all of whom watched with bated breath as the officers' voices rose, accusing Maya of causing a disturbance, simply by refusing to be intimidated, and Miller reached out to grab her elbow, his movements rough and impatient, a physical escalation that sent a ripple of shock through the room, yet Maya remained unnervingly still, her voice a low, steady anchor in the rising storm as she asked for the officer's badge number and the specific statute she was allegedly violating, a question that Miller dismissed with a sneer, telling her she could argue with the booking sergeant. Once they dragged her out, and the power dynamic felt ancient and lopsided, a familiar scene of profiling and overreach happening in the very heart of the justice system, where the officers felt entirely insulated by their uniforms and the woman in the gallery appeared to have no defense but her own quiet dignity. What turned the confrontation into a moment of staggering historical weight was not the officer's aggression, but the sudden, sharp sound of the judge's chamber's door swinging open, and the room snapped to attention as Judge Harrison stepped onto the bench, his robe billowing behind him, his eyes immediately landing on the scuffle in the third row where Officer Miller was still trying to hoist Maya to her feet. And the judge's voice didn't just command the room, it silenced the very air, as he barked for the officers to step away from the council table's guest. A command so unexpected that Miller actually stumbled back, his hand dropping from Maya's arm as if he'd been burned, and the power shift happened in the seconds it took for Judge Harrison to look directly at Maya and apologize for the unprofessional conduct of his staff, revealing to the stunned gallery and the frozen officers that Maya wasn't just a spectator, she was Sarah Jenkins, the newly appointed special prosecutor for police accountability, who had been sent by the governor's office to audit this very courthouse, and the color drained from Miller's face, leaving him a ghostly gray as he realized that the woman he had just tried to physically manhandle was the person whose sole job was to investigate men exactly like him, and the irony was a suffocating cloud in the room, as the bailiff tried to slink back to his post. His head bowed, while Maya slowly stood up, smoothing her jacket with a deliberate grace that made her seem 10 feet tall, and she didn't scream or demand an arrest. She simply pulled a small, digital recorder from her pocket and informed the court that the entire interaction had been documented for her report, and the payoff was the absolute, crushing silence of the officers, who were now realizing that their careers were effectively over before the morning session had even begun. And as Maya took her seat at the prosecution table, the atmosphere in the room shifted from one of intimidation to one of profound accountability, proving that the most dangerous person in the room isn't the one with the gun, but the one with the truth and the authority to enforce it. From a wider lens, the incident in the courtroom was a microcosm of a much larger struggle, a demonstration that while the symbols of authority, the uniforms, the badges, the oak benches, can be used to project power, they are ultimately hollow when used to mask prejudice and cowardice, and Maya's experience showed that true authority is rooted in the law, not the ego of those sworn to uphold it. And the moral of this dramatic encounter was etched into the public record as Judge Harrison ordered an immediate inquiry into the conduct of the two officers, ensuring that the power shift was not just a temporary moment of embarrassment for them, but a permanent change in the culture of that courthouse. And for Maya, the victory was not personal but systemic, a confirmation that her presence as a black woman in a position of high authority was not just a title, but a necessary shield for those who don't have the power to protect themselves. And as she moved through her opening statement, her voice clear and unwavering, she spoke not just to the judge, but to the memory of everyone who had ever been told to move along, or step outside, without cause. And the resolution of the day was a profound reminder that justice is not a passive thing that happens to people, but an active force that must be demanded and defended by those with the courage to stay seated. And as the officers were eventually escorted from the room to face their own disciplinary hearing, the courtroom felt lighter, the sterile air finally replaced by the scent of real change, proving that when the truth is spoken in the halls of power, it has the strength to dismantle even the most entrenched systems of bias, leaving behind a legacy of fairness that no badge can override. If this story resonated, share it with intention, not to highlight conflict, but to celebrate the power of standing your ground. Support conversations that examine accountability in our legal systems, and recognize the brave individuals who use their positions to ensure justice is truly blind. Follow for more stories that center on systemic change, quiet courage, and the moments when the truth finally takes the bench. Because the most important shift in power happens when we realize that the law belongs to all of us, not just those wearing the uniform.